Hey guys, and welcome back to the vlog. For this session we played another 2-2 session in our regular location where we ended up playing our biggest pot ever played. So stay tuned for this one, and also at the end of the video I will announce the winner of the giveaway from the last video where you can win this beautiful card protector, so stay tuned for this one as well. And now into the action. My biggest pot ever played. So people, here we are again, in for 200 euro as usual. Let's go into the first hand. To start the session pretty smooth, I pick pocket kings in the first hand we go over, and we see a raise from under the gun to 7 plus 2 calls, and it folds to me in the low jack, and I 3-bet to 30. The hijack behind me cold calls, that gives the big blind a good price, and of course under the gun and plus 2 called as well. So we go 5 ways in a 3-bet pot early into the session of jack 7-4 rainbow. Under the gun and plus 2 check to me, and I bet 75. The big blind calls for less, and the other players get out of the way, and we see a run out. The turn brings the 7 of clubs, so it brings in a backdoor flush draw. But to make things pretty easy and sure for me, the river brings a king, and of course we are good and scoop in a very nice first pot. The next hand is a good example on how you should change your play versus specific opponents and maybe take more risks and make lighter calls because your opponent is way too aggressive, plays way too much hands. But let's go into the hand. We see an under the gun straddle to 6, and I'm in the hijack with ace-8 of diamonds. We see 2 limps before me, and I decide to limp as well, and the cutoff limps and it folds to the under the gun straddler who raises to 15. The under the gun player is the loosest player at the table. He has a VPIP at minimum 70%, and he gets out of line in almost every hand he plays. So after he raises to 15, the 2 limpers fold, and I decide to call, and the cutoff behind me calls as well. So we go 3 ways to a flop of ace 4-3 rainbow. Under the gun checks, and here I think the board is dry enough to check back some ace-x hand like this one, re-evaluate on the turn, and underwrap my hand a little bit. The cutoff behind me checks as well, and we see a turn in form of the king of spades. Now under the gun bets 55. I think there's only one option, and that is to call, so I call 55 and the cutoff behind me folds. We see the queen of clubs on the river, and my opponent goes all in for 69 total. I mean, versus regular opponents I think that's a clear fold, but versus the type of player I described at the beginning of the hand, I think I have to call here. I know I will be beat sometimes versus a better ace, maybe 2 pair, but overall that should be a profitable call. So I call, and my opponent shows ace-5 of hearts. So we are good here, the 8 still plays, and it gets me a better kicker. We scoop. For the next hand my notes are not on point because I played a satellite turnier on my phone besides the live play, and maybe that's a little excuse for my play in this hand. We see a button straddle to 5, and the small blind is next to act and raises to 17. It folds to me in the under the gun position, and I look down at pocket aces. I 3-bet to 50. And the small blind is the only caller, and we see a flop of 10-8-7. The small blind checks to me, and because the board is very connected, I size up a little and bet 60. The small blind calls, and we see a 7 of spades on the turn. So there are 2 flush draws on board, but I hold both aces for the nut flush draw blocker. The small blind checks to me again, and here I make a terrible check back. I really don't know what went through my mind in this situation, but I guess I wanted to pot control of some sort. I don't really know. but we go to a river and it brings in another 10. Now my opponent in the small blind bets 105. I mean, I think I can't fold my hand. I underwrapped my overpair with the check on the turn, and he could easily put me on ace king, ace queen or some sort of hand, and I call. But as you guys guessed it, my check on the turn costs me a lot of money because my opponent shows me queen 10 of diamonds for river trips, and we lose this one. In the next few orbits I still played my satellite tourney, and I lost a big hand with king king versus 8-7 where I don't have any notes. So after I won about 250 in the first orbits, I lost almost everything back, and I'm almost back to starting stack before we get into the next hand. Okay Philip, serious poker now. In this hand we see two limbs before me and I'm in the small blind with 8-6 of diamonds. I check my option, but now the big blind behind me raises to 12 euro total. Only the hijack before me calls and I think I get a good price here, even though I'm out of position. 8-6 suited plays very well post flop, and we see a flop that is very favorable for our hand. It comes 10-9-7 with two clubs. I check. The big blind bets 20, the hijack decides to fold, and I don't want to slow play my hand here. There are a lot of draws available which I could also play as a check raise, so I want to play my mate hands here like my bluffs, and I raise to 55. Things get even better because my opponent in the big blind goes all in for her remaining stack, and of course I snap call and we see a run out. The turn brings the king of spades, kinda scary. The river brings the 6 of clubs, also not the greatest card, but I show my 8-6 for the straight and we are good. The big blind later showed us pocket jacks for the overpair with the gut shot to the straight, but that's no good in this one and we scoop in a nice pot. In the next one, the 4 euro button straddle is on again and I'm in the big blind with king jack offsuit. It folds to me and I raise to 15. Only 3 players behind me call. We see a flop 4 ways of ace 8-3 with 2 spades. I check and all player behind me check as well. We see the queen of hearts on the turn and there are 2 flush draws on the board right now and we improve to a gut shot. When all my opponents check back the flop, I don't think they have a very strong mate hand. They could hold some smaller pairs, maybe some flush draws, which I can also bluff on blank rivers, so I decide to bet 32. Only the cutoff calls and the other players fold. We see the 9 of clubs on the river, so no improvement for us. We sit here with king high, but the 2 obvious flush draws missed and I still think my opponent doesn't have a really strong mate hand. Only jack 10 gets there and I kinda blocked that hand with my jack. I don't have blocker cards for possible flush draws that missed as well on this river, and that's the reason why I pulled the trigger here. I try to bluff my opponent out of this hand and I bet big. I bet 90 here. My opponent really goes into the tank. Fast forward, after like 2 minutes, he decides on a call. Unfortunately, I have to show my king jack and he shows me 9-3 of hearts. My read kinda was correct. He was on some sort of flush draw, but unfortunately he made 2 pair on the river here and we lose this one. Unfortunately, I lost every hand I played in the next few orbits. I couldn't find any good spots and I had to fold almost all my hands on completely missed boards, and for that reason I had to rebuy for 200 euro. I'm in the game for 400 total now and I'm sitting at around 365 before we look down at pocket aces. And before it's our turn, we see a cutoff straddle to 6 and a limp from the button. It folds to me in the under the gun position and I raise to 25. The hijack behind me goes all in for less, for 20 total, and the cutoff straddler and the button limper call. So we go 4 ways to a flop of 10-8-3 rainbow. I'm first to act here and I bet 55. The cutoff is the only caller and we see a beautiful ace of hearts on the turn. I don't mind hitting a set on the turn, but to be honest I don't think I needed that ace on the turn. Anyway, I still want to build a pot versus the cutoff player. We have some chips behind and he is one of the loosest player, so I bet 110. Unfortunately, he folds after some time and we see a run out for the small side pot versus the hijack, and just to make things complete, the river brings a deuce and my opponent in the hijack shows pocket deuces, but excuse me sir, sir, pocket deuces no good in this one. I have top set and we win a very nice pot. Things really get in our way now, and best example is the next hand. I'm in the big blind with ace king offsuit and we see a straddle from the under the gun player to 4. It falls to the cutoff who raises to 16. The button calls and I decide to 3-bet to 60 here. Both players make the call, so we go 3 ways to a bloated pot of king, queen, 8 rainbow. I'm first to act and I bet 80 into the pot. That seems to be enough for both players because both make the fold and we scoop in a nice pot again. On to the next one. In the next one, our very loose aggressive friend in the button straddles to 7. The big blind behind him decides to call and I'm in middle position with king jack of diamonds. I decide to raise to 25 and our friend on the button is the only caller. So we are heads up to a flop of queen jack 10 rainbow. We have middle pair and an open-ended straight draw, but this board is very connected and sometimes I could get raised if I bet here. So I decide to play more cautious and check to my opponent and he decides to check back. We see a complete blank in form of the 3 of hearts on the turn. Now I have more confidence in my hand after he checks to me on the flop, so I bet 35. He decides on a call and we see a river in form of the king of hearts. We have 2 pair right now, but any 9 and any ace makes a straight. So I don't think betting is a good strategy here and I decide to check to my opponent, and after some consideration he makes it easy for me and checks it back. I show my 2 pair and he shows us pocket 8s. Pocket 8s no good sir in this one. I take this one down. On to the next one. And now people, fasten your seatbelts, buckle up. The biggest pot I ever played in my life. Let's go. We are in the small blind with pocket kings and of course we see another straddle from the button to 5. I decide to raise to 20 and it falls to the hijack who decides to call. The cutoff shuffles his chips and reaching for raising chips. He decides to 3-bet, but only 3-bets to 50. The button gets out of the way and I'm next to act. I could consider slow playing here sometimes, but pocket kings isn't the best hand for that I guess. If I have pocket aces I could just call here sometimes, but besides the fact I don't have aces, I'm out of position as well, so I ultimately decide on a 4-bet. I 4-bet to 150 here. The hijack folds and it's now back to the cutoff. He thinks for like 30 seconds and after that time he decides on a call. We both are pretty deep stacked at around 650 or something total. I have him covered and we go to a flop. So please deal up one time, no ace on the board. Okay, come on. He turns over king 10-3 with 2 diamonds. So we have top set in a 4-bet pot with loads of money behind. Oh my god. After a short time of consideration, I decide to bet small here. I bet 120. He really goes into the tank already here and counts his chips. In this situation, I think maybe he has slow played aces and is ready to shove on me. But after like 1 minute or so, he decides on a call. So there are already over 500 euro into the pot. Our stack to pot ratio is kinda great, so please dealer, give us a blank on the turn and we go all in here for sure. He puts out the turn and he brings in the 4 of diamonds. Not exactly the turn I was hoping for, but on the other side not the worst as well. Some flush draws get there like ace queen suited, but ace queen suited is kinda unlikely in my opinion. He's not the type of player who calls 4-bets with those kind of hands, but who knows, maybe he is. But anyway, our stack to pot ratio is pretty small and there's no way I'm ever folding this hand, so I decide to put him all in for his remaining stack. That is around 350 euro I guess, and he really goes into the tank. Phew! We faded the snap call, that would be so brutal here right now, and he really goes into the tank. He considers his options for like 5 minutes. Fun fact, 1 orbit ago he already said he wanted to leave the session, and yeah, I guess all of you know these kind of situations. You were already ready to go, but then you decide to play one more orbit and then you get in a really tricky hand. Okay guys, 5 minutes pass by and ultimately, you guys know it already, he decides on a call. I'm pretty sure I'm in front right now, but any diamond would mate him the flush, I guess. So please, dealer, one time, give us a brick on the river. I also asked my opponent if he wants to run it twice, but he says he wants to scoop all of the pot if he hits. So we run it once and now onto river. The river brings in a 7 of spades! A complete blank in my opinion, and I instantly show my kings, and yes, we are good and we scoop in the biggest pot I ever played. My heart is pumping, my heart is racing. Unbelievable. My opponent later told me he had ace king with the ace of diamonds, which makes sense. Oof. I definitely have to breathe a little deeper after that hand, and after this incredible hand we played a few more orbits. We had 1 or 2 more interesting hands which I don't go over because the video is already like 15 to 16 minutes. We go straight into the session update, and after that I will announce the winner of the giveaway, so stay tuned for this one as well. Thank you guys, thanks for watching. If you like my videos, please do me a favor and subscribe and like my videos. Thank you very much and see you in the next one. Oh my god, guys. We played the biggest pot in my poker career and we won it. Pocket kings, top set, we hold and we scooped the biggest pot ever. We were into the game for 400 euro and as I said, out of the game for 1.3k. That makes a profit of 900 euro. Amazing. We are on a sick heater and I hope I see you next time. Stay tuned, there will be more poker action in the future and see you there. Goodbye. So guys, I will announce or pick the winner of the giveaway right now. There were 16 people who commented on my video and I will pick one winner right now. Stay tuned. So 16 pieces left. Put it in right here. Mix it up. And the winner is... Ajay Ratore! Ajay Ratore, good luck with this nice card protector. Congratulations on this one. Yeah, I stopped the video right there. What I wanted to say is that this is definitely not the last giveaway of this channel. There will be definitely more for sure in the future. If I reach my bankroll goal, I think there will be another one. But now, goodbye guys. See you.